November is National Diabetes Awareness Month, so you are likely to hear the words insulin resistance, sugar levels, or maybe glucose. Now, some of you know those words all too well because you hear them every day. However, far too many of you watching right now may need to know more about those words, and you don't even know it. Well, in this next half hour, you're going to hear the story of a popular radio personality who was one of the most unlikely people to be diagnosed with diabetes. You'll also hear from two experts about some groundbreaking research and find out how a former Miss America is changing the lives of local teenagers living with diabetes. Because these are our issues, Tampa Bay. You can hear his voice of authority every day on AM 970 WFLA, along with his undeniable humor as he banters back and forth with his co-hosts, Jack and Corey. But today, a much different topic, no politics. Our first guest shares with us his story of being diagnosed with diabetes. Ted Webb joins us from 970 WFLA. Teddy, how old were you when you were diagnosed?
It was 36 years old. And I probably had it for about 3 or 4 years prior to that, maybe even longer, because, you know, once I found out what the warning signs were, I said, wow, I felt like that about 4 years ago. And yeah, it's a heck of a notification from your doctor. My doctor was cool about it. They tested my blood because I was going in for something else. And he sat me down and he says, do you realize that you're a diabetic? And I said, no. I said, it doesn't run in my family. He looks at me and goes, well, it does now.
Wow.
I was the first one in my family to be diagnosed with it.
Wow. You mentioned feeling side effects or having, what were the effects?
It was really strange because I was always thirsty. No matter what I drank, I was thirsty. I wanted something else to drink. And constantly going to the bathroom to pee. You know, it was just like one thing. You drink a cup, back into the bathroom. And then I started noticing that when I was getting nicked and cut that I was slow to heal. And I was always tired. No matter what, I was sleepy. I just couldn't get any energy. And once they diagnosed me and put me on insulin, everything changed and I started feeling better.
And it must be somewhat easy to look at those warning signs and think, oh, well, I'm thirsty. Well, it's Florida. It's hot. It's humid.
I just thought I was getting older when I was getting tired, too. I was saying, well, this goes with age. They tell you when you're in your mid-30s, you're supposed to slow down a little bit or something. And it was really, it was quite an episode that I went through.
So it didn't run in your family. It was completely new to you. What does that do to someone in their mid-30s who all of a sudden their life completely changes?
I didn't know that much about it. So, you know, when he told me in the office that I had diabetes, I said, okay, great. What do we got to do to treat it? He says, well,
what pill can I take to get rid of it?
What pill can I take to get rid of it? And he says, well, let me caution you. He says, this is a very serious disease. He says, this will damage your kidneys. This will damage your eyesight. It'll damage your heart. This will cause you a lot of grief if you don't stay on top of it. And so that got my attention. I realized then that I was dealing with something that was pretty severe.
And how do you stay on top of it, Teddy? Daily?
I watch what I eat. I'm not much for exercising, but I try to move as much as I can. Definitely take my insulin at the same time every day so that I could, you know, get my body used to being on this regimen. But the main thing is watch what you eat. If you watch what you eat and you're careful about it, you're going to be all right with this. They've made some great inroads in treating diabetes, which makes it much easier than when I was diagnosed back in 1985. Right now, the testing equipment is good. I mean, they've got stuff that you don't have to worry about walking around with sore fingers for the rest of your life, you know? So they've made some great inroads. But the advice that I give to people is go to your doctor and get physicals. And do that once a year. Don't let this thing get out of hand, because the sooner you find out you have diabetes, the faster you can start treating it, and the faster you can be on your way to a healthier lifestyle.
Now, obviously it impacted your life. What about your family?
Well, my family was impacted because they were seeing the changes that I was going through, and then they read about diabetes, and oh my God, he's got diabetes, what are we going to do? And then my son got diagnosed when my son was 2 years old. I was type 2, he was type 1. So we as a family were able to fight this thing together, and still to this day we fight it together.
And it does take a family a lot of times.
It does. It really does. They have to change the way that they cook, you know, because what we're going to be eating at the house is a little bit different than what we were eating before. We're not going to be getting into fried foods and a lot of carbs. Rice and potatoes and green peas are not the best friend of a diabetic. And that was the staple of my diet growing up, you know.
Green peas.
Green peas, rice, potatoes, the typical Cuban household, you know. And it made it kind of difficult at first to break away from eating a lot of those things.
How did diabetes affect your job?
Well, you know, at first it was difficult when you're tired at work. You know, I got up at 1:45 in the morning to go to work. And it's difficult enough to get up at 1:45 in the morning, but boy, when you get in there and your sugar's high, it's a load. It's hard
a roller
to perform.
coaster.
It's a
isn't
roller
it?
coaster. And then I've woken up with low sugars because sometimes you don't need enough, or you shoot too much Novolog when you go to sleep, and you wake up with that 37 or 40 sugar. That's an episode too.
And Teddy, what has been the biggest thing you've learned about yourself, about having to deal with something new in your life, something that took you by storm? What has it taught you about you, Teddy?
Nothing else scares me. You know, I mean, once I faced diabetes, it was like, what else can you throw on me that's going to be a little, you know, more difficult? But it allowed me at a point in my life where I was getting crazy, and you know, you're eating things you're not supposed to eat, to restructure your life and become healthier, because now if you break the rules, you're going to pay a dear price for it. You know, you're going to pay a really big price. Diabetes messes up your eyesight. I have gastroparesis, which is the stomach muscles. The stomach nerves have been affected by diabetes. That's a terrible thing that creates nausea all the time. I've had 14 surgeries on my eyes. I've had open heart surgery. I mean, you know, I paid the price for being a diabetic.
Teddy, thanks for sharing your story. Not a lot of people know that you have diabetes, but it's something you live with every day.
Every day.
And I hope that your story has helped spawn somebody to go to the doctor and get a physical.
Get a physical and start on, you know, the minute you start treating this, your life becomes a lot better. You feel better. You feel more positive about your future, because you know that you're doing the right things. And right now I feel great. I feel like a young kid again.
Yes, you do. You look like one too. Teddy, thank you for sharing. We really
you.
appreciate it. Well, after the break, we'll find out about what medical breakthroughs are on the horizon, thanks to some very dedicated researchers right here in our own backyard. Stay with us.